Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Technology Accelerators. And today we're going to talk about AI and more specifically, what AI is not good at, what it isn't good at. There's so much talk about how artificial intelligence or AI is the next big thing. And quite frankly, it is transformative. It is the next big technology revolution, which is going to impact and disrupt everything we do in business. But we've also got to think about it. It doesn't do everything that you might think it does. So today I want to run through what it's not good at. But first we're going to start with what it is good at. And then we're going to finish up with the key business skills that you need going forward. So let's jump into it. And we'll start with what AI is good at. So no doubt you've all heard about ChatGPT. A lot of you have used it. It's all over the news, and there's a lot of other AI tools out there. There's hundreds of thousands of different AI tools out there. So this is all because a lot of the recent AI tools have become popular because they're very accessible, very easy to get hold of, very cheap to use, because the computing power has suddenly become much less expensive. Over the last few years, it's much cheaper to buy the computing power needed to actually launch the big data set of training models that are needed to train AI and then launch it to the public, which is why we get ChatGPT for free, which is quite frankly amazing. So when we think about how it's, if we think about the fact that AI is trained, a lot of the AI is trained on large data sets, that leads me to my very first point around how AI is very good at identifying patterns and trends. So given that it's looking at a large amount of data, it can identify those trends very quickly. And that's how ChatGPT works, really, if you think about it. It's trained on internet data, and you give it a prompt, and then it looks at what those words are related to all the other internet data, and then it creates new content based on the trends, what other people are saying on the internet, other data elements. So that's how it does it. It identifies patterns and then builds on those patterns. And then when you say, "Hey, this is a good answer or a bad answer" in the ChatGPT, that helps train the AI even more. Mid-Journey is another example of how it creates graphics from prompts. You describe the image you want it to create, and then Mid-Journey creates that image. Again, it's using prompts and also using existing images to build the new content. So it uses content to create new information. And that's why it's very, very good at identifying patterns and trends. And as you can probably predict, given it's using such a large amount of data, the next thing that AI is really, really good at is summarizing large amounts of data. It's very, very good at taking a lot of information and boiling it down into very key points. So, for example, if you have a presentation or a document, you want to identify the key points, you just paste in ChatGPT saying, summarize this book or summarize this financial standard. And it's very quick to come up with the key points, to the point where you don't even have to give it the information to start with. You just say, give me the key points about nuclear physics or explain AI, and it will come back with the key points very, very quickly, because it's very good at summarizing large amounts of data very, very quickly. And again, that's because the computing power and cost has come down so much over time. In the business world, it's where it's good at summarizing meeting notes. So if you've gone through a meeting, you've maybe used Teams, where it's summarized the meeting notes, comes up with actions very quickly, even identifies who said those actions. Again, it's very good at looking at all that information and pulling it together quickly. AFEs as well in finance world, authorization for expenditure. It takes those IFEs and then summarizes the analysis on it. So what's the typical spend? What's the approval limits? Is there any fraud involved or any outliers of the AFEs? It's very good at spotting that from that large amount of information. So then we look at the next thing that AI is very good at, and it's using the logic. It's very good at mathematics and logic. So it creates new code. So it could be Power BI code, DAX, could be Python, could be Excel formulas, macros, pretty much any code. It's very good at creating that based on logic. Again, because it understands code, understands the step-by-step approach for building code and logic. It makes it very easy to recreate code from plain English. So that's where it's very good at that routine, that step-by-step process of creating the code. Next, it's very good at repetitive tasks. So this is where AI and machines never get tired. They keep going forever, and they're very good at doing things over and over and over again. So it might be invoice approvals, it might be spotting fraud on a large amount of data set, but also checking every single transaction over and over and over again. The other great example is autocorrect on email. Is if any, the first thing I say is when anyone says, "What is AI?" Look at the autocorrect on Gmail or some of the newer Microsoft Outlook products where you type in your sentence and it predicts the rest. So predictive text on your phone as well. That's a great example of AI in action. Either way, it's repetitive. It does it over and over and over again. It doesn't tire, and that's where AI is very, very good. So I figured it was good to start there because you need to understand what AI is good at, because then you can understand the better context about what it's not good at. And this is where we as humans, and also we as business owners and business leaders, are really going to excel going forward, is how do we use AI to our advantage? So let's look at what AI is not good at. And there's 4 areas. We're going to start with the first one. So the first one is AI is not good at using its initiative. It doesn't have that spurn of ideas to create new things instantaneously. A lot of all the AI now that we have access to, ChatGPT, based on large language learning models and transformative AI, is called narrow AI. It's not general AI. So when we get to general artificial intelligence, that's a whole new ballgame, and that's not happened yet. And who knows, it may happen in the near future. But current narrow AI is based on existing data. So it responds to users' inputs, it responds to prompts. It's only as good as what you tell it to do. It can take that and run with it, but it can't initiate that prompt in the first place. It can't decide when to take action or initiate a conversation. It doesn't identify new opportunities. And this is where we as entrepreneurs and innovators and problem solvers, this is what we're good at: creating initiative. We decide to do something based on an idea or an excitement about trying something new. In industry and business, for example, it might be farming. For example, we use sometimes our gut instinct to do something new, and that's where the initiative comes in. And AI is not good at that. It needs a prompt, it needs a start, it needs something to be given to build on. The next of the 4 areas where AI is not good at is emotions. Not surprisingly, AI does not have that emotional connection because it is a machine. However, if anyone who've seen the film Her, with where Joaquin Phoenix's character actually falls in love with artificial intelligence, you might think that, yeah, some people may be able to actually build a relationship with AI and have that companionship. But at the end of the day, to me, it definitely feels false. It doesn't feel real. Um, Happy to have conversations with the AI. I enjoy the bouncing ideas, but ultimately, it is just a machine. It won't have that emotional connection. It won't spot when you're necessarily. It might see when you're happy or sad, but it won't always know how to totally react. It doesn't have that emotional reaction. It doesn't always know how to spontaneously be happy or have gratitude, for example, or hope or kindness. These are all human emotions that make humankind so unique. So when you're in the business world, this would be around customer service. How do we make sure we provide really good customer service and we read the emotions of the people we're dealing with? When we deal with clients and stakeholders, we're reading if someone's is distracted or maybe not having the best day or maybe slightly suffering from an illness. We can then react and do that accordingly, whereas AI won't always be able to get that and often can't get that. So, for example, healthcare workers, there's definitely a future of healthcare workers because they need to care for patients. The other one I always like to draw on as an example is bartenders as well. You go to the local bar, you don't want AI serving you a drink unless you have a complex cocktail and you want the same thing every time. But what you really want is that bartender to give that flair, or at least that customer service and that human touch when you go to that bar. So then next, the third of the 4 areas is context. So this might seem a bit strange, but if you think about it, this is applying context to different situations. It's applying common sense. So AI builds on data, as we mentioned earlier. The large language models build on prompts based on data and trends and patterns that they've seen. So when it starts to get to creativity, it's limited. It can't get that context, that creativity going. So, for example, when you're building out a vision or a goal or an idea for a company, certainly AI can create some initial ideas, but then there's other outside factors that which humans are much better at in terms of understanding all of the factors involved. It might be just the customer sentiment. It might be just the how the team is doing. How maybe the team has gone through a lot of change recently, so you're going to adjust your leadership style and your strategy and your vision for your company based on how the team is reacting as well. Maybe you need to give your team a break if they're tired. Again, you need to apply context to the situation in which you're working. Whereas AI is just going to say, well, given this data, here's the next step. If it doesn't have some of that data or can't apply that context to the data, it just keeps going. It also can't create art from scratch. So AI can create art. We've seen amazing artistic renderings from Mid-Journey and various other tools, but it doesn't spontaneously create art based on its emotions, and that's also a very human aspect. And the other aspect is to think about is bias and experience. So the point of AI is it does have inherent bias based on the data it's been trained with, and we also have to watch for that bias. Humans too have bias. That's just human nature in terms of how we stereotype and how we live life and look out for danger, and also spot trends ourselves. But we have that generally that moral compass, that sense check for how we apply our biases in the business environment. And that's where AI would apply it in a very clean and clinical way, whereas humans have that emotional, contextual view of how we apply decision making. And then last of the four is relationships. Again, we touched on this earlier when we talked about emotions, but just to dig deeper into this one, because this is the most important. AI can never replace that human relationship, that team building, that relationship building, the stakeholder management when we're on projects or in business or leadership. This is how we create a team and work together towards that singular vision. AI is great at defining the vision, but it doesn't really bring together people with a sense of purpose. And that's where the energy comes in. We're perhaps talking to each other and showing our emotions and then showing our energy around driving towards something. And then we're connecting with people using our relationships by creating commonalities. We're seeing how people react, and then we're acting with them. We're perhaps mirroring our attitude and our reactions to them based on how they feel. Maybe they're having a bad day, so you want to show empathy. Again, you're building relationship, which is building on the other ones around emotions, initiative, and context as well. And this is a great example where AI can't do relationships. So, for example, in project management, leadership, or maybe even going out to, as I mentioned, the healthcare workers or the police force. Again, it's showing that relationship with your clients, your stakeholders, your customers, to really make sure that you deliver that good customer service. And that's what AI is not good at. So in summary, those are the four areas that AI is not good at: the initiative, the emotions, the context, and the relationships. So pulling all that together, where do we as humans, how do we use AI going forward? What are ultimately the business skills of the future? So this is where if we boil this down to say, okay, at the end of the day, AI is transformative. It's a tool to use. It's going to be vitally important that we all get to know it and learn it and make it your friend, but you need to work with it. It's a partnership. So using AI as a tool, the skills of the future are going to be business problem solving. So again, using our innovation, our entrepreneurial spirit, solving problems that are based on emotion, not just logic. So AI is very good at solving problems based on logic. Humans are very good at solving problems based on emotion and logic. This would always also mean we take leaps of faith, again, using that initiative that you mentioned earlier. So, for example, if a close family member was suffering from a rare disease, we might solve a problem to solve that disease because it's an emotional connection to that close family member. AI might decide the logic of solving that rare disease isn't worth it. There's no business case. It doesn't make sense. But we as humans would solve that disease because we have that emotional connection. And as a result, we then have a new solution. The other one is using Elon Musk and SpaceX, for example. On paper, he wouldn't have done that necessarily because it's such a big risk away from his current business model of the Tesla battery-powered cars. But then the whole SpaceX came along and he took a huge risk based on the problem to be solved about how do we ultimately put humans on Mars. So the next big skill, in addition to problem solving, is communication, presentation skills. Ultimately, how we work with other people, how we listen to other people in an environment, and how do we work with them to deliver something new. It's connecting with your audience, your customers, your clients, your stakeholders. So that communication skills is very fluid. It takes a lot of initiative as well. You have to read the room and ultimately decide how you're going to respond to people. So that communication skill is something that AI can't do. But what you can do is take what AI is giving you in terms of information and then apply that, give it your style, your character, give it your flair, add a sense of humor. That whole presentation skill is, again, what makes us connect as humans. So communication skills and presentation skills are absolutely key going forward. And then next, initiative, starting something new. We talked earlier how the large language models, AI, narrow AI right now, doesn't take initiative. It needs prompts, it needs something to start it. Whereas we as humans suddenly have that bright idea, that spark. We have that get up and go. We want to try something new. We like to take a risk. We have excitement. It's novelty. So that might be a new business idea, might be a new project, or even might be just going for a walk or going on holiday to a different location or trying something new at the restaurant. So these are all taking initiative. It's starting something new, which AI is not there yet. With general artificial intelligence, it could get there. But again, this is a very human element, which when we take the initiative to use AI, that's when the real power comes into transforming our lives. And then the next one is risk taking. So again, AI is very logical. So it's going to apply very specific mathematical equations and logics to how you take risks. So humans would put emotion over rationality sometimes. We take risks. As long as they're taken within reason, that's when we start taking business risks. We do something new and there's a little bit of risk in there, which is also some excitement. So as I mentioned earlier with Elon Musk and SpaceX, that was a huge risk, different way of doing things. But again, on paper, from a business point of view, financial point of view, it wouldn't make sense. But from a human point of view, in terms of driving something new, trying something new and taking a risk, that was a very human skill, which has ultimately resulted in something amazing. And then the final of the 5 skills that I want to list for business skills of the future is teamwork. So again, how we interact with people, how we work with our fellow teammates, or how we make friends at work, how we build relationships, how do we know when to reach out, and how do we know when someone's feeling tired? It's all creating that teamwork, that collaboration to ultimately build out a business, a project, a department. It's that people working together. So AI can't do that. It's not something that it can do because we can take AI and use some of the outputs, but ultimately it's not able to put that all together to create that bigger teamwork, collaboration, and relationships that make business work together, and how ultimately we make something new. So that's my summary of what AI is not good at, also what it is good at, and also these business skills of the future. It's a hugely complex area and there's a lot of change going on. So as always, if you want to talk more about this and chat about AI, reach out to me. Always love to chat, and just send me an email, drop me a DM. And until next time, we'll see you in the next Technology Accelerator video.